What's going on? It's Justeeni here, and today I'm going to be kind of discussing the balance changes a little bit. I'm not going to go super in-depth about it, but I'm going to discuss how I worry about these affecting the competitive meta in a bad way. I'm not going to be worrying too much about like this specific change kills everything, like this Trika and photo change, totally unjustified, and Forget-Me-Nots buff not needed, and all sorts of stuff like that, like killing Puffshroom for no reason. Like, there's a lot of questionable ones, but I think the main problem isn't even like some of these specific ones, like this is probably not the right way to nerf Black IP. This shouldn't even be nerfed at all. And random stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, this probably shouldn't be buffed. Same with Marine Bean. Lots of stuff on the zombie side like that. Like, this, why is this buffed? And stuff like that. This shouldn't be buffed. There's a lot of stuff like that. Why is this being buffed? Why is this being nerfed? This doesn't do anything. Like, there's a lot of questionable individual things, but the main thing I worry about is if you look at the balance changes. I mean, first off, if we look at a bit of context beforehand, competitively, the win rates between plants and zombies have been pretty close to even. Not perfectly even, slightly favored for plants, like 1% favored, basically even. But the balance changes really tell a different story. A ton of buffs to zombies across the board, and not very many nerfs across the board. With plants, tons of nerfs across the board, and not that many buffs. So a decent amount of buffs, but a lot more nerfs than compared to the zombie side. And that's what worries me, is it was like pretty close to even, but now suddenly like Guardian aggro is dead. Although they kept Forget-Me-Nots. Like, I guess Smarty kind of replaces it. But I mean, Smarty already had options with like the Funny Bean package and Jelly, so it's not changing it that much. It's just kind of taking away a good option and then just amplifying another option, but the plant options are going to be pretty limited, whereas with the zombie options, like, there's not a lot of nerfs, and especially like a lot of cards that needed nerfs, like Cheese Cutter, not nerfed. Teleportation zombie, untouched. Blob was buffed. Trickster, not nerfed. Machosaur was buffed. Like, a lot of these important cards are either not getting nerfed enough, like Conman. I mean, I think Conman was honestly not too much of a problem. But nerfing Pirate, like removing Pirate, does basically nothing. This change, not going to affect Barrel Mission that much. Like, I guess it makes it a little worse, but if you're going to nerf this combo, nerf the thing that it's really strong comboing with. Because, like, Final Mission is completely fine with, like, everything else. And yeah, there's some other weird buffs, like, for example, Trick Stash, very meta deck. Let's buff one of its most important cards. Like, there's so many, like, questionable zombie changes like that. Like, there are some nerfs that kill cards and make them not viable anymore, but there's stuff. But most of the nerfs are stuff that aren't very, like, relevant cards in the first place. Like, Disco Dance Floor, pretty niche card, not used very much competitively. But then they also buff some cards that already see competitive play. They did nerf Fruitcake at least. A substantial amount, not like a basically negligible amount, an actual decent nerf to Fruitcake, but what other zombie cards are getting a decent nerf like that? Just Fruitcake? No, seriously, like, what other zombie cards that needed a nerf got a nerf that will actually substantially impact them? Like, Pogo didn't even need a nerf, and the nerf does nothing. Why didn't Cryo Yeti, or Raptor, or Cowboy get a nerf? What the heck? And then on the plant side, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, this nerf is basically irrelevant, but these nerfs are, I mean, this one a little less so, but these nerfs are pretty big. Like, that changes things a lot. This nerf hurts Nightcap a lot. Then there's this nerf, which hurts every Mega Grow hero, so like already Fast Guardian and all of Mega Grow getting hit pretty significantly. Then, not really anything in Smarty, actually. But then, like, Solar, I mean, aggro is already not very good in Solar. But, like, Elder's getting hit. And then probably the biggest one of all, like, Cob Cannon getting nerfed. This is, like, really impactful. It absolutely deserved nerf, but, like, all these nerfs, but not a lot of buffs to make up for it. Whereas with the zombies, a lot of things that needed a nerf didn't get nerfed. And also, even more, like, substantial buffs to the zombie side, I'd say. And again, like, so many of these cards that maybe could have been nerfed, because a lot of the strong plant options did get nerfed, though they did miss some things like Poppies and Forget-Me-Nuts and, you know, some pretty important ones of Velociradish Hunters, like, Velociradish Packmate. Like, this probably needed a nerf, arguably more than Triceratops did. It's a harder card to counter. It's pretty swingy compared to Trica, but this didn't get touched at all. Like, this got nerfed pretty significantly, and it didn't need it, but a little overkill maybe. But again, like, on the zombie side, like, where are those really impactful nerfs? It's this one, and that is it. The rest are just either nerfing cards that didn't matter much anyway for competitive, or, like, it just not nerfing enough. Like, again, why isn't Black Hole nerfed? And then again, there's a bunch of buffs on the zombie end, like a lot of pretty big buffs. So I worry, are the scales going to tip from basically 50-50 to suddenly plants are only winning 45, maybe even 40% of the time, where zombies are winning 55 or 60% of the time? It's not some of these individual changes that I worry about, because even in the old version of the game, there were a lot of imbalanced stuff, but even despite that, the meta was interesting because things were pretty even, despite all the unfair things that both sides can do. It kind of canceled out. But when one side's able to pull off more shenanigans than the other side, it's gonna kind of ruin things, and I worry about that quite a lot. So I guess my message to the little developer guys, hello, maybe keep that in mind. Like, if you're gonna, like, nerf things, nerf, like, the actual staple competitive cards instead of just some random stuff. And then maybe tone down the zombies, you know, actually nerf them. I don't know, that would be nice, because I worry about the competitive community getting hurt quite a bit from this. But yeah, that's kind of all. Like and sub, and have a good one.